Hey everyone, welcome to a beginner's guide to Deadlock. In this guide, we'll be going over farming, playstyle types, building, gameplay mechanics, and we'll be finishing off with some cool tricks you can do to help you become a better player mechanically. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the guide. First off, let's go over farming. Now there are multiple ways to go about this. The first is laning. When the game starts, you're either put into a lane by yourself or with an ally. In lane, you can farm minions by killing them, but there's a little catch. When you kill a minion, you get souls from it, but when it dies, an orb will spawn from its body floating upwards in a random direction. This orb also contains souls, the same exact amount the minion was worth. So when you kill a minion, the orb will appear as a bluish green orb. When it's the enemy's orbs, it'll appear as an orange orb. When the orb spawns, you want to shoot it to destroy it to get the souls from it. You can also let it self-explode after a few seconds and you'll still get the souls, but if you do that, it lets the enemy have a chance of denying it by shooting it themselves. Not only will they deny your extra souls, but those souls will instead go to them. So this is really a core feature to understand for being able to outfarm someone in lane. Not only do you want to kill your minions and get your own orbs, but you also want to deny the enemy's orbs. However, there's a cool trick you can do. If you kill the minion with a melee, you automatically get the orb and the enemy never has a chance to deny it. So you should be looking to do that whenever you can, especially if the enemy laner has a better weapon for denying it than you do. These weapons are typically more high fire rate oriented weapons like machine guns. Now, something magical happens at the 10-minute mark, besides mid-boss spawning. Starting at 10 minutes, minions will stop giving the initial souls for killing them, and you're only awarded the souls if you get their orbs. On top of that, the soul splitting rules become different. Prior to 10 minutes, if you split with a lane partner, you get 100% of the souls, so effectively 200% total for splitting. However, after 10 minutes, this split drops to 50-50, so 100% total. One thing to also note here is when I kill the red orb, I get 100% of its value, but when I kill the green orbs, I get 50% of their value because I'm splitting them with my ally. So the takeaway here is only the person who denied the enemy's orb gets the souls from the orb. Another way to farm is by killing neutral camps and destroying objects like boxes, gold statues, and pots. I consider this to be a form of jungling. Even though there's no set jungler, if you get a break in lane, you can go around killing these camps and destroying these objects for additional farm. The objects will drop souls and other buffs such as power-ups like increased cooldown rate, increased fire rate, increased mag size, and so on. Neutral camps that are up can be seen on the map as green arrow symbols. You'll want to go to these to get additional farm. Their size will also give you an idea of how many souls they'll yield. Smaller ones are easier to kill, yielding less, whereas bigger ones are harder to kill, yielding more. The final way to farm is of course killing enemy players and structures. Just like minions, when you kill them, orbs will spawn from their body that you want to confirm whether they're the enemies or your allies. These orbs also spawn from killing enemy guardians and walkers. Just think of them as bonus souls for taking down an objective.
No, probably wouldn't. I need to keep me wits about me.
Now let's go over the objectives. There are two main neutral objectives in Deadlock. This would be the Spirit Urn and the mid-boss. And of course we have enemy defenses like their guardians, and the way to actually win the game defeating the enemy patron. But let's first go over the Spirit Urn. This objective is an urn that spawns in around 10 minutes. It requires a member of your team to pick it up by standing over it and taking the urn across the map to deposit it at its site location that can be seen as a giant square symbol on the map. It's important to note that while you're running the Spirit Urn, you're permanently disarmed and you can't use any abilities. However, you are allowed to drop the urn and pick it back up whenever you like, so you can give yourself a fighting chance. Once delivered, the Spirit Urn grants souls to your entire team and it gives the person who delivered it an extra ability point. The other major objective we have in Deadlock is the mid-boss. This thing is located, well, you guessed it, in the middle of the map and it spawns in at the 10-minute mark as well. Although this thing may take a while to do, so you probably won't want to do it until later on in the game. To hit it, you have to stand in the pit with it or it'll ignore your damage. Once you defeat the mid-boss, it'll drop the Rejuvenator, which will slowly float down. Once it hits the ground, you have to deliver a heavy punch to secure it. Do note though that the enemy can come in and steal it with a punch too. So it's probably best to have an ally sit in front of it so they can parry while the other one secures it. The Rejuvenator grants a team-wide buff that lasts for 3 minutes. In this time, everyone on your team gets a 50% faster respawn and increased fire rate. All your minions also get a 50% increased HP buff during this time. However, once you die, the buff is consumed and you lose it for yourself. So all in all, this is a really strong buff that has a major impact in being able to end or come back in a game. Finally, we have enemy defenses. These are pretty self-explanatory. You destroy their defenses to get extra souls and open up lanes to push the enemy back. However, there's one cool extra feature they've added to these to make the game more interesting. This would be the addition of flex slots. Flex slots appear as extra slots that are located next to your regular build slots. These allow you to put any item from any section in them, even if you overcap your regular slots. We'll get more into that when we go over building, but to unlock these flex slots, you need to meet these conditions. Number 1, your team must kill all of the enemy T1 guardians, meaning all the initial guardians from each lane must be destroyed and you'll unlock a flex slot. Number 2, your team must kill 2 walkers. A walker is located as the second line of defense behind the T1 guardians. Once you defeat 2 walkers, you get another flex slot. Number 3, your team must kill all the walkers. So instead of just killing one walker now, you need to finish off the rest to unlock the 3rd flex slot. And lastly, number 4, your team must kill the first shrine. Once you destroy it, you unlock the 4th and final flex slot. That's what I like about this system. It gives you something more than just pushing up a lane. It actually gives you a reward by allowing you to add to your build as you take down the enemy's defenses. Next up, let's go over ability points. Ability points, of course, allow you to put points into your abilities, ranking them up. Each ability maxes out at 4 ranks, which consists of your initial rank, which unlocks the ability and 3 upgrades. To max a single ability takes 8 points total, 1 for the first, 2 for the second, and 5 for the final upgrade. So how do you get these points? These points are mostly given through soul milestones, but as we went over earlier, successfully delivering the spirit urn also gives you an ability point. What's cool about these milestones is you can see them visually as a little flash symbol, located at the bottom left of your health bar. Once this fills up, it'll give you an ability point, and reset requiring more souls on your next fill up. Here's a little chart I got from IGN that also shows some of the ability point milestones. As you can see here, you get ability unlocks at 400, 1500, and 3000 souls, and of course you also start the game with an ability unlock. Up next, let's go over building. This can be pretty complicated and requires more than just watching a video on it. You'll develop the skill over time as you play the game, but I can at least help you get started by going over how to actually think about building and how to approach it. But first, let's understand what exactly we're building. There are 3 categories for building. These are weapon, vitality, and spirit. Weapon is going to increase your weapon damage, vitality will increase your overall tankiness, so HP and mitigation meaning like spirit and bullet resistance, and finally spirit will increase your ability based damage, duration, and cooldown. Now each of these categories are going to have more effects, but these would be the main ones. You can build up to 4 different perks in a single category. However, with the addition of flex slots, which we mentioned earlier, you can overcap the 4 perk amount and distribute those extra perks in those slots. So theoretically, you can get up to 8 different perks in a given category. Now the reason why I'm saying different is because some perks build into each other or have different tiers. You can see this as is a component of in the perk. For example, improved cooldown will build into superior cooldown, upgrading that perk instead of taking up 2 slots. Lastly, some perks come with actives that you can bind to any one of your 4 active slots. These can be used when pressed to apply additional effects according to the active. So let me show you how to apply this knowledge. Let's do this by going over a few examples. The cool thing about building in this game is you can be about as creative as you like, especially with flex slots being a thing. But you also want to complement a character's kit with the build you're looking for. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's take Kelvin for example. Kelvin is a more ability-oriented character who does a lot of spirit damage. His gun is honestly pretty trash, so you almost never want to itemize into the weapon section of the shop. Just about all of your building should be done through the vitality and spirit sections of the shop, because that's where his kit is going to shine. Okay, so now we've narrowed down Kelvin to 2 sections, and we've ruled out the weapon section, because that doesn't complement his kit at all. Now from here, where do we want to go? Well, the way I would do it is I would look for some sustain or extra HP in lane. So I might itemize into extra regen or extra health at first. This is going to help my sustain if I'm getting poked down lane, and it also helps to allow me not to take as many trips back to base so I can focus more on farming. This part of the building process will apply to just about any character you play, by the way. From here, I might want to get Infuser, which is an active that grants me additional spirit power and lifesteal. Now hold on, what does Infuser do for me? Well, let's think about Kelvin's kit. His main weapon, his main form of damage is going to be his Ice Beam. This beam will do spirit damage and slow enemies as you hit them. So Infuser actually helps out with this quite a bit because it gives my beam more spirit power and gives me lifesteal from my beam. Another item I will get is Mystic Reach, which will increase the range at which I can shoot my beam. Now, of course, this isn't just going to apply to my beam. In fact, you can see how the perk you're purchasing affects your overall kit. So Kelvin is very ability driven. So we might want some cooldown. Duration extender would also be great for every ability I have, since they're all channeled abilities. Also getting something like Mystic Vulnerability into escalating exposure would be really good for my beam, since it shreds spirit resistance, which will allow me and my allies to do more spirit damage to them, aka more beam damage. I also like getting Spirit Lifesteal form under the Vitality section because I'm mostly spirit damage. You can also combine this with Healing Booster to increase that lifesteal, but it also complements your ultimate since it's a giant dome that focuses on healing him and allies inside of it. So it's going to increase the effectiveness of that dome healing as well. This is building just for your kit, but how about the enemy? Well, this is where it can get even more complicated. Say for example, I'm going up against a bunch of healers and lifestealers. Getting Healing Beam would be a super good pickup for me since it essentially is giving my beam anti-heal. So the way we've approached building are 2 parts. The first is we look at our character's kit and what they do best. Then we try to itemize into that style. So Kelvin itemizing mostly into spirit and a bit of vitality since his weapon is trash. The second part is we look at who our enemy is and what they're building. And using our style of itemization, we also look to counter them with perks that are a part of that style. Let's take a look at another example. Bebop is a good one to go over because he can have different playstyles. Some people like building more spirit oriented on him, others like being more of a tank or support with him, and others like myself like going a bit more weapon damage on him. So personally for me, I like to do a little bit of everything on him with the focus on weapon damage. My initial perks would be basic magazine because he has a continuous beam that he likes to hold down and fire, and I also like getting extra health, which also actually increases my weapon damage by a bit. I might get headshot booster next for more overall damage and bullet lifesteal for sustain. I'm not going to go over every perk, but this is how I would approach building him. Also getting Mystic Reach is really good for my hook, especially since I can hit some pretty nasty snipes with it. Oh, what the? So this is what a full build on Bebop would look like for me. But again, there's so many ways to build a character that there's no one correct way. Now, if you're still not feeling confident with building, don't worry, Deadlock has a really cool system for this. If you go to the shop, you can go to the build section and actually search up public builds from really good players. You can favorite these builds and save them. Then the system will actually direct you on what to build next. It also comes with notes too that'll help you understand what you're building and why you're building it. So that's how I would approach building in this game. But again, with how complex it is, it definitely takes a lot of time to understand. And the best way to go about it, in my opinion at least, is to play the game and experiment. Now let's go over some cool tricks and hidden mechanics you can do. The first is parrying. If you didn't know, you can actually parry in this game, which by default can be done by using your F key. If someone is looking to take a swing at you, say an Abrams for example, you can parry his punch. This will not only block the auto attack, but it'll stun him for over 2 seconds. Also, I mentioned this earlier, but it's also good to have an ally stand by the Rejuvenator as it's coming down to focus on parrying any enemy looking to steal it.
I got parried. GG.
Funny enough, you can also parry enemy defenses too. Next, we have the infinite ammo effect. If you slide down the ramp or through a jump, which by default can be done using your left control key, you actually gain infinite ammo during the duration of the slide. This is really effective and used at higher levels of play all the time. By being able to toggle through infinite ammo and your regular weapons ammo, you can get many more shots off in a single clip than you otherwise would be able to. Another cool mechanic is wall bouncing. This one might take some time to learn, but just like in Apex, you can bounce off walls. This is a really effective mechanic because aside from making you hard to hit and being something super cool you can brag to your friends about, if done correctly, it doesn't use any stamina. To wall bounce, all you need to do is fling yourself at a wall and press the movement key opposite of where you're looking at the wall. For example, if the wall is straight ahead of you, when you hit the wall, press the S key. If it's to your left, press the D key. So pretty much press the key opposite of the wall, you just need to get the timing down. So it might be worth your time to go into the sandbox mode to practice this mechanic. Finally, I want to go over a few miscellaneous things I didn't cover in the previous parts. So first up, we have slot machines. These are a form of farming and can be found in various areas, denoted as a square with an inner circle-like symbol on the map. You can walk up to these bad boys and beat the crap out of them. They'll give you souls in exchange for some of your HP. There's also a perk that you can pick up that spawns on the vent bridge between the green and yellow lanes. These perks grant you a temporary boost to whatever stat they affect. There's a total of 4 of these perks, which are gun, movement, casting, and survival. You can see the stats they're boosting on the left side of your screen above your perks. Now's also a good time to note that you can also see the resistances and those kinds of stats here too. Another cool thing to note is when you kill a lane's double guardian, it opens up a permanent speed boost rail line for that lane. So when you hop on the rail, you'll be much quicker. One thing to also note is that you can only take the rails as far as your minions are pushed up, which is another reason why it's very important to keep waves pushed up, because you're essentially getting more mobility around the map. Lastly, we have the teleporters. These guys are denoted as an arrow symbol on the map and show you which other teleporter you'll end up at when you take it. These teleporters are great ways to get around the map, and they also make great getaways.
Port! No! Get out of here.
And just like that, that's going to be the video. I hope you enjoyed this guide, and I hope it helps you on your journey to becoming a better Deadlock player. One thing I did want to mention is that Deadlock is currently changing a lot right now. They're coming through with different updates, changing some things around. For example, while making this video, they changed unlocking the second flex slot from killing just 1 walker to having to kill 2 walkers now. So I just want to throw that out there depending on when you watch this video, because some of the things might be a bit different, but the core game mechanics should still be the same, like farming for example. That's going to be it though. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. I'll do my best to address them. Until the next video, see ya!